we're going to be talking about fractions, decimals, and percents today. The things you need is you're going to need a little triangle foldable that I have handed you in class, this little chart that I also handed you in class. You need something to write with. I am going to use a pen. I highly recommend you use a pencil, but I'm going to use a pen because it shows up darker on the video. And then a calculator. And I'm going to do my best so you can see the screen, but you might have to follow along with what I say calculation-wise instead of necessarily seeing it. It's gonna shine a little bit. Okay, so this is what you need, and you need to title your page fractions, decimals, and percents. And I'm going to abbreviate. I'm going to go fractions, little arrow, decimals, little arrow, percents. Okay? I'm going to cheat a little bit. Now, on your actual foldable, if you don't know what the F, D, and P stand for, well, you have to write them out. So, on the F, I want you to write fraction. On the D, I want you to write decimal. And for the percent, I'm going to write it kind of to the side here. Percent. And I'm going to draw the little symbol that means percent right there next to it. Okay. Now, for fractions, and I'm going to make it a little darker, decimals, and percents, these are three types of rational numbers that we'll be dealing with quite a bit. Now, we're going to glue this, or you can just kind of sit it there and write alongside it, but I'm going to glue this, my glue works, to the page. Right here toward the top. See, here's my title bar right toward the top. Now, we're going to put some things along the outside to actually do the conversions between decimals to percents and percents to fractions. And I'm going to draw some arrows, and it's going to matter. You need to draw the arrows. And I'm going to kind of do it in the order of this chart. So the first thing this chart says is fractions to decimals. So we're going to go from fractions to decimals. How do we change a number that is in a fraction form into a decimal form? Well, you do this by dividing. And I'm going to shorthand this. It's division. So to change from a fraction to a decimal, you have to divide the two numbers. Now, order matters. So when you're putting it into your calculator, remember, first one you have to put in first, then the divide symbol, and then the second number. Hope you can see this. Alright, so 1 divide 5. And your answer is 0.2. It has to have that decimal point, or it is not changed into a decimal. Alright, let's try the next one. 1/8. So I'm going to go 1 divide 8. And I get 0.125, or 125 thousandths. So I'm going to write that in my chart. So now I have 3/4 to do. I'm going to leave that one for you to do, so you're going to have to finish that one. And I don't want it blank when you come to class. I want you to go into your calculator, 3 divided by 4, press enter, and write your answer there. Okay, now let's go from a decimal. Since we can get from a fraction to a decimal, let's go from a decimal to a percent. Alright, this one is quite easy as well. All you have to do is multiply by 100. So multiply by 100. That's how a decimal becomes a percent. So in your calculator, let's do this. Alright, the first decimal is 0.25. Do we always need that 0 in front? No. I put it in there because that is correct place value, but it is not always required. So if I wanted to, in my calculator, I could just go 0.25. It is the same number that is down here. Now times 100. And you get the answer of 25. Notice the decimal is at the end here. So my answer is going to be 25, and I'm going to add a percent sign because percents are always have a percent sign, and that's what we were going from. We're going from a decimal to a percent. So I'm going to do the same thing on this guy right here, the next one. It says 375 thousandths. So let's see if I can try to get rid of the glare. 0.375 times 100. Alright, you can see there's a decimal. It's in between the numbers. That is perfectly okay. It can be between the numbers. Percents can have decimals in them. So when you rewrite it, write your number, make sure your decimal's there, and then put your percent sign. Alright, I want you, just like on this last one, I want you to, in your calculator, do 1.25 times 100, and you will get your answer. Make sure it has a percent sign. Okay. Now, last part we're going to do, there are other conversions, but we're only going to be dealing with these three at first. Now we're going to go from percent to fraction. So your number is already in a percent form. You want it into a fraction form. Fraction forms have that dividing bar, okay? So, how you do that is you put the percent number over 100. Now, just in all things in math, it gets a little bit more complicated because you have to reduce or simplify your number. So once it's in its proper form, you have to simplify it. So let's try this one right here. Alright, percents always mean 100. We talked about that in class. Percents mean 100. So this is 80, and then we put it over 100. Now, this can be simplified. It can be simplified by 10 at the very least. That means knocking off these little zeros. So your number becomes 8/10. Now, what two numbers can go into 8 and 10? Well, if you said 2, you are correct. You're going to simplify by dividing 2 on top and bottom. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit closer what I have done. Now, we're going to do 96%. Again, if we follow our rule, it is percent over 100. So 96 over 100. Now, you use your divisibility rules that are already in your journal, and you're going to see that anything time there are even numbers, you can divide by 2. So, if you off the top of your head know what 96 divided by 2 are, awesome. If you don't, you have a calculator. 96 divided by 2 is 48. Now let's do 100 divided by 2. You get 50. I'll tell you, it can reduce again. So, again, they're both even numbers. So, let's go 50 divided by 2. You get 25. And I'm going to tell you a number sense trick. 48. What is half of 4? Well, that's 2. What's half of 8? 4. So 24 is half of 48. Sorry if you can't see that very well. This is 48. Or, excuse me, 24. I apologize. Alright, again, I want you to try to do the last one. If you don't reduce it, that's okay. If this is the only part that you get, I am perfectly okay with that. Practice will be on our way. So, have this glued in. When you come back, all the pieces are completed. And I will see you tomorrow to discuss the 3 other types of conversions. Bye!